Okay, so we will start. Thank you for coming, girls. Good morning. I know it is very early morning. We need to get ahead with our qualitative, quantitative research course. Today is a special day. You're going to start working towards the oral exposition. So if you think we will be presenting after coming back from the national festivities week, and we will have around 2 weeks to finish presenting. Yeah, so every group has the possibility to present on various quantitative research designs and qualitative research designs. Okay, so you will have an insight into both. And you will listen to your classmates, and we will be sharing those summaries and graphic organizers. So those are the tasks with which we will be working. And I think, as I was explaining, there is a task created for last week, for week 2. That's the qualitative quantitative research document that you completed with the comparison. And this week we will have a forum. So you can share your research on experimental designs. Okay. Okay, people are coming. Welcome, welcome. Bring some tea, coffee, food, you can be eating. You can be with your slippers, pajamas, but you need to be here listening to me, please, and working, because we need to get ahead. And so you don't have extra work during the week as well. Okay, so you receive my communication. Participation in class, I wanted to remind you that that's why I need you present, because I need you to participate. Also in online activities, when you upload your summaries and comment to classmates, but mainly working in class so that we complete all of the partial tasks in class and you don't have extra work to accumulate for the future. Remember, now you're reading to get information, knowledge, but you're also thinking on how important, how useful that information is for your own research designs in your projects. So quickly, just short revision. The research design that we saw last week. Why is a research design useful? What is the function of the research design? Remember, we were thinking, yes, of qualitative, quantitative, when we were comparing these pictures. But why? Why do you think you need to decide on this?
I think the research design, the function is the direction with investigation.
Is to, yes, of course, is to give direction, yes, to provide direction to the,
yes,
and organization, yes, both things. Is to provide direction and organization to the study, yes, to know what you're going to do. Organization to the study. And therefore, by organizing this research design, you know what you're going to do. And we said that it is indicated in the previous class. We had organization, but we also guaranteed that by following these steps, we were going to get to the best results possible. And remember, we also need to act ethically, respect participants, respect the methods of data collection, so that we do not make mistakes or mislead the results of the study. So that's why we need to follow, we need direction, organization of the study, and research designs
Teacher, maybe
guarantee.
this the possible result with the
Yes.
investigation.
Yes, so it's related to the guarantee that the results are truthful, are the correct results after following the steps of the study. So guarantee the results are accurate and respect the phenomenon being studied. Yes. Okay, so that is why we need to follow a research design. And you have thought of problems, to research problems, you have research questions. And from there, you already established your way of observing the world and understanding the world. Therefore, that's the beginning, the seed, la semilla, that's the seed to start, that's the seed to start thinking of the research design. How are you going to organize that study? Yes, then selecting study design. Yes, why do you think in your studies, we described them briefly last Wednesday. Why did you choose that research design? And remember, yes, your task, this chart that I was talking about that you need to upload to Educandos. It is called how is it called? The qualitative and quantitative research document, where you have the comparison. So go back to that one, go back to that document and think, why did you choose in your study, for your study, either or, a qualitative or a quantitative research design? So you are going to give an organization whenever we have this methodological framework ready. We are going to have step-by-step direction and organization of what we are going to do. But why do you look at the world in either way, as in this picture? In a picture in which we have numbers and measurement, or where we want to bring light to experiences, perceptions. What do you think? It is because of the...
Maybe I show a qualitative or quantitative study for the topic investigate. And
because of the problem.
Yes, the problem, or the possible for
Quantitative.
the study applicate, for example, I the possible in the applicate the study in group, for example, the question and
yes, the easy, how are you going to apply? How are you going to collect data? Yes, you were thinking of that. Yes. Yes, and the easiness and the access to the groups. Yes, that's also a reason. So whenever you read now the second part of the class, when you read experimental designs, you will see the logistics that you need in order to carry out experimental designs. And you will think, okay, you will understand what Javier says. Now, probably by choosing another design, I have less logistical complications, or it's more accessible to the groups that I want to study. Yes, so a qualitative research design was chosen because of the problem, the research problem. Yes. Because of the research problem, the access to groups. Yes. and the interest to study specific phenomenon. Yes, phenomena. So that's also, and a way of looking at the world. Remember when we saw the philosophical schools last semester, we try to understand that by looking at the world in one or other way, thinking of this dichotomy between positivist research paradigms and interpretativist paradigms, we were looking at the world with different eyes and with a different understanding. So that can also influence the studies, the designs we choose. Yes, and the way we see the world, how we are going to analyze that world, the phenomena in the world. The interest on different social phenomena. Yes, and okay, how come? Okay, good morning, everyone coming. Yes, and the decisions. Well, Javiera said yes, because of interest, because of accessibility to groups. Yes, understanding of the world. Anyone else has another decision? Daniela, for example. Daniela comes from a different background. She has an experience in a different background, not education. And therefore she sees the world or understands the world in a quite different way. And so she might probably have been influenced by a more quantitative background or research studies with which she was in contact before when studying another career. So that also has to do with influences that we receive from our background, our educational background. Think if you were studying medicine, for example, you will be much more related and influenced by just experimental designs, for example, being done in the health sciences much more than in education, though there is also experimental designs and experimental research studies carried out in education. But that can also have to do with can have some influence in our decisions, yes, and the way we see the world. Any other group would like to explain special views of the world or special decisions? So Daniela might be having some breakfast, but later we will need your expertise as well and a comment on your study. Okay. So we keep on recognizing elements of quantitative research, and therefore we will analyze different chapters. Kumar continues to be our line of reading. And I will explain some previous, so we are focused on chapter 8. That's what you will be reading and summarizing. I will explain some other elements that we need from previous chapters. And then you will read on your own, yes? So we will have a break, and after 50 minutes, around 50 minutes, and you will be able to start with your reading and summarizing and looking for a graphic design, for a graphic organizer or any display, alguna muestra gráfica, just because you will be presenting on these designs. Therefore, just to help you think ahead and prepare towards that situation, towards that activity. So variables, chapter 5 in Kumar. Kumar really explains variables gives lots of examples. This is an important chapter for those who want to work with variables in their studies. You're very much welcome to read chapter 5 in Kumar and try to make sense of the explanation he makes in relationship to variables. And this is a concept that you will read a lot about in the designs, in quantitative designs. Whereas qualitative designs do not consider variables, yes, in the way they are considered here. Okay, so this is in the realm of quantitative research designs. Quantitative studies, and therefore, one of the explanations that we gave for our picture, do you remember, in which we saw quantitative research designs as being focused on numbers, on quantities, going through a machine, yes, going through a processor. Why? Because quantitative studies have an emphasis on exploring commonalities. And that's why you see that here you have a circle design, it's kind of circle, whereas here you have a square and everything organized according to different colors. Because quantitative designs try to find about commonalities. What is common? Yeah, so I am not interested in different kinds of experiences or visions of the world or perceptions, but I try to explore what is common in the study population. That's why everything is like on patterns based on what they have in common. So exploring commonalities in the study population, present measurements and variables. So that is why we are always thinking of numbers when we think of quantitative studies, because we need to measure, yes, medir, mediciones. So that is why quantitative research studies are worried about numbers, about quantity of people participating, looking for what they have in common. So, so outliers within a population will be left out. Yes, they won't consider special cases. Yes, and they are worried about presenting measurements and variables. And variables need to be measured. Yes, so we need measurement, mediciones. Yes, in Spanish. To measure, medir. And that's why this is a good graphic here. So a variable is a concept that can be measured. Yes, so so variables start being concepts, but their particularity is that they can be measured by crude or refined or objective units of measurement. So I need to measure every variable with units of measurement that are objective. Concepts can be converted into variables, and Kumar discusses this a lot in the chapter, how concepts can be converted into variables, either directly or by a set of indicators we are going to see in the next example, which are a set of criteria reflective of the concept. So how can a concept become a variable? Because a variable I can measure. Sometimes concepts are not measurable. And Kumar gives lots of examples about this. Concepts that are not necessarily measurable, but we can convert them, transform them by a set of indicators into measured variables. And he gives an example here. The concept of rich. So we know rich is an adjective, meaning, what does rich mean? Rich, adjective in English? What is a rich person? Rich?
Es rico.
Rico, rico. Yes. So rico es un concepto, es un adjetivo. Yes, an adjective. But I have another concept related to rich, which is wealth. Wealth is the noun, the abstract noun referring to rich. Richness can also be, but we talk about wealth. Wealth is riqueza. But what are the indicators of wealth? Yes, wealth in itself, I cannot measure. But I have indicators to measure wealth. ¿Sí? Wealth en sí misma, la riqueza, como un concepto de posesiones, porque eso es lo que vamos a ver aquí. No la riqueza de espíritu, por ejemplo, no en ese aspecto, sino, remember, it's quantitative, yes. La riqueza en sí misma yo no la podría medir, pero si tengo indicadores de riqueza, sí los podría medir. And this is what we do in quantitative research. We look for variables or indicators that can be measured. So for example, income. An income is a variable that can be measured. Income es el salario, es la entrada de dinero. That's income. And assets, again, assets is very general. We need to subdivide assets into indicators. What are assets? Y esa palabra es una palabra también, un sustantivo que incluye muchos elementos dentro. What are assets? So an asset is a house, for example, a boat, a car, a bank account. So those are assets. Those are indicators of assets. And therefore, after I have all of these indicators, I can go to variables. So when I convert the value of each of these assets into dollars, then I have the value of the assets. I can measure. Finally, I can measure the amount, the value, yes, that a person owns. So when I account for all of these indicators, and they can be measured in terms of money, then I know the assets of the person. And those are the variables I can measure. Yes. So probably from wealth, which is very general, I cannot really measure, but I can measure assets, I can measure income. Because I have a common denominator here with which I can make them a variable of a measurement. For example, the value in money, dollars, or whichever name denominator for money. So again, you will have in Kumar a chart. I can later copy it and add it here. Of concepts and variables. Yes, comparing concepts and variables in the sense of thinking, helping you think on which can be measured. Yes, which can be measured. So income, we say it can be measured because it's money. The value of assets, yes, las pertenencias, las posesiones, las propiedades, those can be measured. Yes. But richness, for example, cannot be measured. And we will see an example, but I will add this chart to the PPT. So for example, so all of these concepts, richness, or we said wealth, domestic violence, is another example that Kumar gives a lot. We cannot measure self-esteem, excellence, satisfaction. We cannot measure them, but we can measure variables. Yes, variables that have to do with gender, with attitude. Those are nominal. Yes, age, income, as we said, weight, because we can measure height, religion, gender. You cannot measure, but you can. Those are special kind of variables. Those are nominal variables, but indicate that one is different from the other. Yes. So if you're Catholic, you're not Protestant, yes, male or female. Okay. So for you to have, so we need, in case we need to change these concepts into variables, we need to go through this process of looking for indicators. Yes, what can I make, how can I make the concept into a variable, measurable? Okay, so that in regards conversion of concepts into variables, in case we need them for our study, yes. Therefore, remember, whenever you were thinking on your first steps for your pre-project, some of you thought about effectiveness, yes, remember, about impact. Some of you wanted to do this, but again, that takes you to a next step, that is, how can I convert that concept into a variable so that I can measure, yes, so that I can measure and have a result in my study. That's why. Remember when you were just finding making the first steps. Some of you were at that point. Okay, types of variables. And this is something you need to read about the quantitative research designs, because you have from the viewpoint of causal relationship. And we know something basic, but I am going to show you it here. It is a little bit disconnected, but we need that. We need to know that quantitative research designs are based on cause and effect relationship. Yes. So whenever I am thinking of cause and effect relationship is when I am thinking about a quantitative research design. So we were right when we were just mentioning before that the research problem dictates the basics for the choice of a research design. So bear that in mind, yes. Quantitative research designs are based on a cause and effect relationship. So if I am searching for cause and effect relationship, I am within these research designs. Quantitative research designs look for commonalities among participants, yes? They look for measurement and to test different kinds of variables. So there you have specific characteristics of quantitative studies. So you're looking for a cause and effect. You look for commonalities in the population. You need to measure. You need to have variables, yes, and they need to be measured. So if you're thinking or rethinking of your projects in such a way, then this is your day. This is the day for you to decide on which design to choose within quantitative research, which approach. Okay, so variables, always thinking we have a cause and effect relationship. And we saw this in general. Walliman also presented this research designs in general, and he talked about cause and effect. Yes, designs, yes, cause and effect, quantitative, yes. Here we have these 4 kinds, and then we will see other names that will also be necessary for you to bear in mind when you read. So I'm going to share the PPT so you have the names. So change variables are the variables that introduce changes in a phenomenon or situation or circumstance. Then they have another name, you will see. Outcome variables are the effects. So remember, cause and effect. Yes, always causal effect relationship, yes. Always thinking quantitative research looks for cause and effect. So this is the cause and this is the effect. So we have variables that represent the effect, the impact, the consequences of a change variable. And then we have variables which affect the relationship between cause and effect, and variables that complete the relationship between cause and effect. And so those might be the 4 variables that you might encounter if you need to design your study around these designs. So here we have more explanation about them. So change variables are called independent variables, and those that had already some experience reading about quantitative research might have read about independent variables. So independent variables are well known in research. Those are change variables. Those introduce the cause. So those are the cause of a phenomenon, which refer to the cause that brings about change in a phenomenon or situation. The outcome variables are the dependent variables, and you will read about independent, dependent variable. Always thinking cause effect. Yes, if I do this, I have this result, which refer to the outcome or change brought about by introducing the independent variable. And then we have other 2 variables, the extraneous variables and the intervening variables. Yes, and those are the ones. So the extraneous variables affect the relationship. Yes, and the intervening variables complete the relationship. So variables that affect the cause and effect relationship are called extraneous variables. In Spanish, I think it's, I will confirm with you, they have a name. Extraneous variables, which refer to factors that operate in real life situations and affect changes in the dependent variable. So you have one variable here being the cause and their effect, but other variables in the middle affect that result, that effect. These factors may increase or decrease. Yes, increase, decrease. Remember, all 2 words that we use a lot in quantitative research. The magnitude or strength of the relationship between independent and dependent variables. So here the extraneous variables are important because they can influence that result and make some factors increase or decrease that strength, the strength in the relationship. The intervening variables link, yes, help to link independent and dependent variables. And in certain occasions, the presence of intervening variables is fundamental in the relationship between an independent and a dependent variable. The cause or independent variable will have the cause or independent variable will have the assumed effect only in the presence of intervening variables. Okay, so in the vacuum, so you will be reading in the different designs about this, independent variables, dependent variables, and other variables that help or affect that relationship. So Kumar gives a very simple example that is with smoking causing cancer. Yes, so cause and effect. Always think this relation, yes? Cause, effect. But in the middle, he explains, in the middle between the independent variable and the dependent variable, you have lots of intervening variables. So there are other variables in the middle that also help, support in some way the effect in the dependent variable. And so he gives examples around topics like, for example, the age of the patient. So it's not, so that you have other variables that intervene. So it's not only cause and effect. If I smoke, I have cancer. That is not a black or white situation. You have in the middle some other variables. And this is the example. So again, chapter 5, in case you're interested in reading more. Yes, so you have a cause and the effect, but you have in the middle lots of linking variables. So in the relationship about smoking and cancer, you have other variables there that link or affect. Yes, the age of the person, the extent of smoking, the duration, and other variables, if they did exercise or not, the amount of smoking. So you have independent, dependent, but other variables in the middle trying to affect or link that cause and effect relationship. But there's always a cause and effect relationship. So go back to last semester when you were thinking of effects or impact. Remember when we were talking about those topics, you were thinking of some cause and effect relationship between variables. Okay, that's the thing you were reading. Probably because you were influenced by the literature you were reading. That's a possibility, yes. But you were thinking in these terms. Okay, so here, this writing is so small. We need larger level, larger. Okay, at least a little bit larger. So study designs in quantitative research. And quantitative research designs can be studied from different viewpoints. We were seeing. So according to number of contacts, yes. And there we read last class about the cross-sectional studies, the before and after studies. You will be reading today, before and after. So that's easy because before and after means, yes, before and after. Yeah. So number of contacts. How many times do I contact the participants? So you have cross-sectional, you have before and after. That's very easy to understand. It's before and after. And you have longitudinal studies. Meaning, what is longitudinal? It's easy in Spanish as well. Longitudinal, a long time, yes?
Mhm.
So you have number of contacts. So you see your population, your participants before and after something, a long time, or only once, a cross-sectional. And you will read about characteristics of this. Then the reference period is, it refers on the phenomenon, whether the phenomenon is looking towards the future, yes, prospective studies, looking at the effects of phenomena in the future. Retrospective, looking at phenomena and their influences in the past, and a mixture of both, retrospective, prospective. Okay, so that's the way, the reference period. Okay, and the nature of investigation. And so you also have specifics within quantitative research. We have experimental designs, about which you're going to read, experimental, non-experimental, and quasi-experimental or semi-experimental. Oh, so those are the names. And so being able to describe this, whether it's cross-sectional or longitudinal, experimental, that's also part of the research of the methodological framework. Okay, so think if you want to do it. Oh, sorry. A research design of this kind, yes, you will need to refer to what is cross-sectional, yes, and here you have a picture. Cross-sectional, so you only look at one section of the population, yes, at one time. But longitudinal, you look at different groups a long time. So not only once, but several times a long time. You have longitudinal studies whenever people start a career or children start in school, for example, and they are measured, yes, a long time. In first grade, in third grade, in fifth grade. Those are longitudinal studies. But cross-sectional is a picture at one moment. And you have the description here. So cross-sectional, find the prevalence of a phenomenon, yes, by taking a cross-section of the population at one time. So it's a picture as it stands at the time of study. So I will study this population at this moment. It's a picture of today or this time. Yes, I do not know how it progresses a long time. Before and after, yes, or pre and post, they are very clear, yes. Measure changes in the situation, phenomenon, issue, problem, before and after a program, for example, or an intervention. That is another word you will listen to or read about a lot. And longitudinal studies, they determine a pattern of change in relation to time and over a period. Okay, so you have cross-sectional, longitudinal, and before and after. And we said we might have experimental, non-experimental, and semi or quasi-experimental, but they all measure or they try to look for an impact, yes, of variables, one independent variable and a dependent variable, or the effectiveness or the usefulness. In general, when you read about this in research designs, in research articles, you're reading about quantitative research designs, yes, looking for this cause and effect. Okay. From Kumar, I also have this picture of experimental and non-experimental. Because an experimental design, and this is what you're going to read about, the researcher introduces an intervention or cause, yes, an independent variable of change. So they cause, so they apply a treatment, an intervention, a program, yes, and they measure the changes. So this is the pure experimental design. So if you're thinking of proving a method of teaching an activity, a technique, a program, and you need to know the results of that in a population, you are thinking probably of an experimental design with some conditions. Yes, we're going to see. On the opposite, you have the non-experimental, which are also possible when the researcher observes the phenomenon from the effects and tries to establish the cause. So it's the opposite. Yes, so you don't start with the cause, you start with the effect. When you analyze the effect, then and try to know what the cause is, then you have a non-experimental design. So in general, these two separations, so this division, so experimental and non-experimental. On the other hand, quasi-experimental, not very well explained in Kumar, is more similar to experimental design, only that it has some changes So they, for example, you observe a group with pre-existing factors, yes, because experimental designs need to follow a certain pattern. Yes, and specific conditions. So quasi-experimental do not follow those conditions, yes. You don't have control over the variables and over the participants. And you don't have comparison, control group, or random assignment, which are characteristics of experimental designs. But quasi-experimental are in the middle, yes? So they also try to analyze effects, but they lack certain characteristics of experimental designs. But then you have non-experimental, that's on the other side of the continuum. Experimental designs, so can be carried out in controlled environments or in natural environments. So if you are in a controlled environment, you introduce the intervention or the stimulus, the independent variable, and study the effects, the results, the dependent variable in a special environment. But it can also be done in the natural environment, yes, where the population is not taken out of the natural environment. That can also occur. And here are the characteristics of, this is one of the characteristics for experimental designs that we were seeing here, yes. So experimental designs need the groups to be comparable. So for example, whereas in quasi-experimental, we don't have comparable groups, we observe groups that have already been created. For example, in education, that happens a lot. In experimental designs, you need to conform the groups so that they are comparable. And how do you do this? By choosing participants at random. So these are the famous randomized experimental studies. Entonces los experimentos aleatorios. Son famosos los experimentos aleatorios. So you are assigned to a group, but according to a system. So it's not predetermined, but you can be in either group, in the experimental or the control group. The study population and experimental treatments are not predetermined. Yeah, so this is done a lot in health. Yeah, so I need to really experiment with the vaccine. We need to really experiment the effects of the vaccine. So you don't predetermine groups. So you establish that by randomization, population is assigned to different groups. So nothing is predetermined. Any individual or unit of a study population has equal or independent chance of becoming part of an experimental or control group. And you will read about this in the designs. So the experimental group is the group that receives the experiment, that receives the intervention. Yes, the intervention that we have here. And the other group, there are different situations. They can receive some kind of intervention or no intervention at all. There are different kinds of designs. But randomization guarantees that there is no predetermination. So I don't decide 1, 2, and 3 go to this group, 3, 4, and 5 to the other group. No, just anyone can go to any group. Therefore, the treatment has equal or independent chance of being assigned to any population. And therefore, in that case, I am sure that groups are comparable. Yes, just because they are selected at random. With health, this is done a lot, not so much in education, because in education we mostly have this other situation in which we have groups that are already set. Yes, as for example, complete courses, cohorts, grades with children. Yes, and we want, nevertheless, we might want to introduce an intervention and measure the effects. Yes. But in that case, we won't have randomization. Yes, we work with pre-established groups, and therefore we have pre-existing factors affecting the results of the study. So in general terms, this general presentation introduces you to the world of quantitative research and experimental designs. So again, you will have the PPT to work with, do not worry. So we talked that quantitative research designs look for a relationship that is, which relationship do they look for? A quick quiz. What's the relationship in quantitative research designs? Come on, it's here. Anyone? Are you awake?
Can you repeat, teacher, the
Yes.
question?
What is the effect? What is the relationship you're looking for in quantitative research designs? Mostly. Which is a
The variable.
Cause and effect. So mainly we are trying to measure cause and effect. Yes, the relationship of cause and effect. Remember that we have quantitative, yes, and we were thinking of quantities of numbers last week, but this is the relationship between, in all quantitative research designs, the relationship between cause and effect, independent, dependent variables. Yes, quantitative research designs look for, we said here, what do they look for? They explore what do they explore? We made a comparison. Do you remember?
Commonalities?
Commonalities. What is common? Yes, so I don't try to understand different experiences, understanding the meaning. No, just commonalities. Remember what the population has in common with some, in relationship to some phenomena. And they try to present measurements, measure, medidas, mediciones, no explicación de experiencia. Yes, and we had this perfectly well in the explained in the pictures. Do you remember? So here we try to bring light, but here we try to make measurements. How do I measure different variables? Yes, and how this cause and effect relationship is brought about. Yes, so that is why we need variables. And variables can be measured, we say, yes? By means of indicators, we can come to different variables coming from different concepts. Yes, but I need to measure. Yes, there are some concepts that you cannot measure at first, but you can measure some indicators related to the concept. And then the variables. Yes, so you have independent variables, dependent. So independents are the cause of the change, and dependent variables, the effect. Plus other variables in the middle that also support the relationship between independent and dependent variables that you need to control. Yes, you can manipulate those variables. Okay, so you have two big groups, experimental designs and non-experimental designs. You're going to concentrate on experimental designs, and they are characterized by random assignment. Yes, so so that the groups can be comparable. Any one member of the population can receive the treatment. Nothing is predetermined, and everything can be under control of the researcher. Whereas quasi-experimental, that does not happen. Yes, you cannot control all of the factors and variables. In general, just as a revision, we will have a quiz next week, so you will have time to revise this again. So group work. So we will go to a break, but when we come back from the break, we will divide in groups. Yes. To read these pages, so 10 pages, they are very short. The explanations are short, but you need to read several times to understand what it is about, the different designs, okay? So it's tricky, it's short, but it's not a common reading that you do in everyday life. Yes, it's a special kind of reading. So one group can do the first two, these two. The comparative design can be done by one group, and then these other two designs. They're very short descriptions, but you need to understand them well for presentation. Yes, so at the least we need 4 groups. Let us see if we can have the 4 groups working together today. And what you're going to do is to check vocabulary. So here I have a word bank of words that I have found they are common to all of the designs and throughout the readings about quantitative studies. Yes. So all of these words are, of course, we have variables. Yes, but they are explained before, but you have variables, I was thinking, yes. You're going to check in the area of research, and you have here a reference Oxford website, which is dedicated to research. So you look up for the words here in this Oxford reference. It's a great tool, I have just discovered it. Very, very useful. Okay, what are you going to do? I explain and then we go to the break and we come back for the division. You're going to check vocabulary. Yes, you will have all of these materials. You take notes while reading, summarize the information, something you know how to do. We have been practicing since last semester. Look for or think examples to explain the design. One example, as I told you, for example, the experimental design, one of the experimental designs with smoking, for example, or with that's the after only experimental design with smoking and cancer. For example, just you think of an example, but it has to be done within education, mainly. Yes, if you can think. So before and after, this was done, for example, as a requirement for students in practicum in my university in the United States. So they went to practicum and they had to do this design at the beginning, yes, a before and after experimental design at some weeks of their practicum, and then they also collected qualitative data, yes. So they conducted reflections, they conducted interviews, and so on and so forth. So this was a requirement for students your age, yes, at your level. So to do a before and after experimental design brief in their practicum, for example. And this can be done whenever you read, you will discover how to do that, which example you can create, for example, in education. And then you will prepare a graphic organizer. That's your task. You will share that in a forum on Educando, so everyone can see your graphic organizer, and it's part of your presentation that will start, we said, after the Independence Week in September. Yes, so in 2 weeks' time, we will start with the presentations, and you will present on quantitative and qualitative research designs that we will discuss in next weeks. In next week before we have the break. And you will be able today, hopefully, to report some findings, even if you don't have everything complete, about the research designs. Okay, so this is your task after the break. And before we finish the class today, so we can have some, a short presentation, just some, so to see if you understood the design, if you need more explanation or more information, for example. Okay, so do we agree? So we have 10 minutes break. 10:30 we come back. At 10:30 we come back and we start working in groups. Yes?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, so see you in 10 minutes. At 10:30, okay? Okay, so see you 10:30. See you. So we divide the work. So the after only experimental design page in Kumar, page 114. 14, and that's for one group one, what did I say? And before and after is a mixture of pages 114 and 115. Very, very short. The control group design and double control design. Okay. The control group design, 15, and double control is 15. 15 and 17 until 17. 117. Okay. It's just checking for you to have an equal division. Yes. 16. No, 15. 15 and 16 because it has some explanation, but it's not very long. And this one is page 117. No, the comparative design is longer, so that can be done by one group. So decide if you, so they're all experimental designs. Comparative design is 18, 118, a little bit of 19. It has a lot of explanations. Does anyone have a special decision or just any? The match control design starts in page 119. So you have Kumar uploaded to Educandos. So please, match control experimental design and placebo design. It's just one, it's very short on one page. Okay. All right, all right. What is it? Oh my gosh, don't have it. Okay, I need the, okay. Okay, 190, page 190. Yes, this is on one page. Okay, anyone special or just any? So we can just do it a random, and that is as an experimental design. So it can be a random, so there's no preferences, yes, no predetermination. Anyone can do any of the designs.
I want just one. I want the comparative design.
Comparative, okay. Comparative, okay, perfect. You will be working in groups. I will be sending the PPT. So it's vital for you to follow the PPT. Okay, I need to save. So it's okay, saving. Okay, we are saving. Okay, Barbara, you will have that one and the rest. Okay, I will assign it manually. Okay, group 1, Araceli and Javiera. And you will read the first 2, yes? Araceli, Javiera, you will read and the first one, 114. Here, and the after only, experimental design and before and after. In 2, Barbara and, oh, we don't have your classmate Barbara, so you will do the comparative design. In 3, okay, you can work with Camila. Camila worked with Barbara today. Camila, yes. And we're missing people. Okay, Genesis, Liselda, and Lucas. Sorry. We'll work with, I will tell you. So comparative design, Barbara, Camila, and Daniela. I need you to do another one. You can share. But Camila and Daniela, I need you the control group design and double control design. Yes. Yes, Camila, did you? So I
Yes,
will
teacher.
write that down. Okay, thank you. And no, sorry, Camila. Camila, you will do the match, control, experimental design, and placebo design. The last 2. And Liselda, Genesis, and Lucas will do the control group design and the double control design. Okay, so we write down again. We write down the names. So Araceli and Javiera, after only, and before and after.
Okay, me.
Before and after. Yes, thank you. Barbara and Javiera, you will share comparative. Camila and Daniela, the match, control, experimental design, and placebo. And the rest, Liselda, Genesis, Lucas, the control group design and double control design. And double control design. Okay, so you're ready. And remember, I will share by means of the chat, the PPT. So you need to read, summarize, look for examples, take notes, look for examples, and search for a graphic organizer. Remember, you know graphic organizers from last year. And also, you know, for example, infographics. So you choose. You're free to search for your display. ¿Sí? Es una presentación gráfica in general. Yes. Okay, so you're going to. Yes.
Camila is here.
Yes, no, Camila might have. Yes, so I will send her to your group, to your room when she connects again.
Yeah. So I will work alone. Yes.
Yes, for the time being, just read,
Yeah.
and I will go group by group, just checking your understanding. Okay.
Okay.
Half an hour. Yes. So let us see if in half an hour we have at least some ideas. So I will go and talk to you in the groups. Yes. To clarify the reading. Okay. See you. display. Do not worry. So you're going to have a forum 2, created in this week to upload your graphic organizer with the information from your designs, okay? So who would like to share something? So we discuss. This is not an evaluation. We are just sharing. Could you understand the readings? Was it okay? Because you have special vocabulary, yes? So you have intervention, impact, effectiveness. Who would like to share something? Araceli, a little bit of the summary. It's not the presentation. So do not worry. Okay, Barbara. Okay.
Like a words that are important for understanding this.
Yeah.
I think that is treatment.
Yes, treatment. Yes, different treatment. Oh, treatment can be here, I think, intervention can be the same as intervention. So that slipped away from my list. But treatment is intervention.
So can change this different
Yes.
interventions.
Intervention, yes. Treatment intervention models, and they are introduced into different groups. Treatments, different treatments. Yes, different interventions. What Barbara is presented is comparative study design. And,
yes. I am my theme was topic
your design.
was chapter was 1 moment, is the comparative design. I will
The comparative design, yes. It can be done with experimental, quasi-experimental.
This is divided in. I will explain about the design.
Yeah.
This was used for put in action.
Put into action. Yes.
Yes. The same stimulate in different groups. Okay, for the focus is compare the result.
Yes, exactly.
Like this picture, the population was or groups are divided, and they use different teaching models.
Yes,
and
interventions. Those are the treatment. Treatment comes a lot from medicine. We know these designs are used a lot in medicine, so they use treatment. So you use treatment A, B, C, but you can do in education, and it's not a treatment, it's an intervention, or it's a model, or it's a technique, or a methodology. Yes, and you have A, B, C. Yeah, 3 groups.
In the chapter, the chapter give us examples for understand how use in education.
Yes, exactly.
Where the groups are divided and have the same variable. The dependent
dependent variable.
And they then they have conclusion to the science observations.
And you can compare different dependent variables. Yes, because you're going to have different results. And you can decide on that event.
Yes, and this model can be used in experiments and non-experiment.
Yes,
only for arrive to conclusion about something.
Yeah,
it's more for put in
to show
exactly to show for lived experience, something like that.
Yes, and to show different results. So if I teach group A, if I teach them project-based teaching, for example, remember from last year. And group B, I teach, so think of examples like that, yes? So the group A will do project-based, yes? Group B will do task-based. And group C, grammar translation, for example, yes? And you have different methodologies coming from different approaches, and then you have the results. So remember, you always will have an independent variable and a dependent variable, and the results will be different. Yes, and you can compare these results according to if you follow the design. So that is the idea of the comparative. Well, maybe that's too different, but you can compare 3 methods within communicative language teaching. Yes, project-based, problem-based, and task-based. And see the results and analyze the results. For example, those are the kind of examples. So you bring to education, yes, the design. Okay, thank you, Barbara. So you will have more time to continue developing your graphic organizer. This is from Kumar, but probably you will do a different one better. So you have time to develop your graphic organizer, yes, and your examples. Okay, Araceli, the first
Yes,
two
teacher,
pre-post. Yeah. So pre and post is a very common design in education. It's very ad hoc to education. So whenever you use, teachers normally do pre and post. Pre and post designs are really easy to do. Teachers will have a diagnostic, for example, from students, then teach something and test them again. So that's the idea of pre and post, yes? Pre and post, or before and after. So what do they know before and what do they know after? So the results, the effects. And there you can measure the effect of your intervention. So that's the idea of pre and post, or before and after. And then you have only after experimental design that can also happen. It's a design in which you don't have the pre, you don't have the data from the moment before the intervention. So, okay, we listen to you guys. But that
okay,
can be
in the after early experimental design, the researcher know that the population is begin or has been exposed to an intervention and wish to study its impact on the population.
Yes, so but the situation here is that the population has been through intervention, but we don't have information before the intervention. So yes, that's what experimental designs wants to do. They want, these designs want to explain this cause effect, but I need to know the status before the intervention. Okay, so that's ideal, but you have these cases as well, yes? So you have this case. So what can you do?
And this design will using in impact evaluation studies.
Yes, in evaluation studies. Yes, exactly. And can be done, for example, in our setting as well. Yes, so think of an example, an evaluation of a program. Yes, so whenever you are in the final year, you might be evaluated according to the program. But we do not have you, so we have your intervention in the middle, but we do not know your status before. We might do that. Okay, yes.
The information in this design is baseline in the pretest or before observation. It's usually constructed on the basis of response. Recall of the situation before the intervention or from information available in exist records.
Yes,
The
exactly.
previous record.
Yes, that's the pre. Yes, so remember, in here we do not have a test. We might, but probably in some cases you don't have the pre-test. You don't have the diagnosis. So you can recall that. Yes.
There's some example for the, according to the text, is the impact on traffic accidents, the impact of health program on the mortality of a population, and the impact of an advertisement. Yes, on the sale of a product.
Yes, but you can also do this in education. So think, for example, I want to evaluate the program in our elementary school program and the school the English program.
Maybe the evaluation SIMSE is the, for example,
yes, exactly, because you have a cross-sectional design. Yes, and after only experimental design, because sometimes you don't have the pre-test. You only have the results of this exam. Exactly, that is the one. Also, PISA tests, SIMSE.
Yes.
Or if I want to evaluate the English program at university, yes, in the college. Yes, so I will have your data. For example, if you were the participants, your data after you finish, but I might not know your starting point. Yes, your pre-test. Okay, excellent. Yes, this is done. And
in the practice, this design depends of having a current reasonable data.
Yes, of course, and the analysis you do, and how you build up your baseline. So I can, for example, I do not have your pre-test, but I might have your data coming from interviews in which you tell me, when I started the program, I didn't know anything of it. I didn't know any English. And now I have a level C1 of proficiency. So we know that the intervention we did in the middle was successful because the post-test is successful and you started at a very low level, for example. We can reconstruct, as Javiera said, that baseline, that pre-test. And then the before and after is the most used, easy to implement in a class, for example, in classrooms. This is done a lot.
And this design experimental, the answers are single or the problem of the after all design. That is the comparability of the before and after observation. And the program has been fully implemented post-observation. Is carried out the determined impact attributable to the intervention. The impact of the intervention in before and after design is calculated in the following manner. In this is the change in the dependent variable equal the status of the dependent variable after observation and the status of the dependent variable at the before observation.
So this is probably not very well. It's a formula, yes.
Yes.
But it's the ratio, yes. So something on something. So you have to explain. Probably search for a way in which you can explain that. So yes, of course, you know, you might have differences in the post-test, and that is that that proportion is the result of the impact of your intervention in reference to the pretest. And as we saw in the drawing, whenever you just enter data in a program, the program already gives you the result, which is the effect of your intervention in the post-test. Yes, just that's done by a program. And look for another Probably you can look for other ways of displaying the information. Here you copy from Kumar, but I am really challenging you to find a way to show these results in a graphic organizer that is different from Kumar, because sometimes these graphic organizers are not so easy to understand. Yeah, sometimes Kumar is not so clear. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. So this is what you read. So this were easy up to now, and you can look. Yes, we remember examples from education. And do you have any other to share? Okay. If
Me?
not, okay. Yes, you can, Camila. You can share.
Do you see the work?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The matched control experimental design. Okay, it is about the groups are formed by characteristics they have in common. That socioeconomic level, the prevalences of certain condition, or the scope of a problem in the student population. But in matched study, the comparability is determined individually. For example, we have two individuals. So we select about characteristics like such as age, gender, or type of illness. So are matches, and then each is allocated to a separate group. This is the match control experiment design.
And the matching is done on, yes, so this is a special kind of grouping because you're grouping according to characteristics. Remember that the random design, completely random design, you don't have predetermined characteristics. So any person can go to any group, but here you're grouping them according to characteristics. So you are already manipulating there that variable, okay? So you want to see how the variables here of age, gender, or type of illness influence the effect. So I can divide, so in medicine, this is done a lot. So I will group together, so smoking and cancer. So I will group together people who have been smoking for 20 years. So together that group to study the effect that that variable can have on the development or not of a more of a deathly a disease like cancer, for example, or any other disease. So in medicine, this is done a lot. This can also be done in education. So I can group children in school according to very similar to what Barbara was saying, according to an intervention that I'm doing or an experience they have had, and study the effects on the results. Okay, so this can be done in education. So think of the situation in a school, for example, in school or in university. Where can you do that? And the placebo is very much done in medicine.
Yes, the placebo is designed is a psychological effect where the patient believes that he is receiving a treatment that will be effective in his recovery.
Yes.
And the placebo study includes 2 or 3 groups that are the first group received the treatment, the second received the placebo treatment, and the third, the control group received nothing. This group, I don't understand much. What is the control group?
Yes, because you, in general, yes, so it's to see the effect. So for example, a group that receives the vaccine for SARS-CoV-2, has SARS-CoV-2. So they receive the vaccine. The second group thinks they have received the vaccine and they can report certain symptoms or feelings or experiences in relationship to that psychological effect, as you say. And the third group doesn't receive anything. And so they just, they can also annotate or also annotate their symptoms, for example. So it's a way of checking if the treatment is with disease. This is very much done because sometimes, remember, in medicine, there can be a heavy influence on disease. Heavy influence comes from psychological effects and not only from physical symptoms. So that's why this is very much done in medicine. I'm not sure whether in education, yeah, so the students think they receive something. But it's especially with substances, when you receive something. So remember that in medicine, there is a very, so it's a variable that is very important, that is the psychological effects that patients or people in general can feel or report that they feel, but they are not real physical symptoms. Yes, so, entonces, más o menos, ¿por qué se hace en medicina? Porque los síntomas en medicina tienen un fuerte componente psicológico. Entonces las personas pueden creer que están enfermos de algo, hay hasta embarazo psicológico, y una embarazada psicológica puede reportar síntomas o sensaciones de una mujer embarazada, pero no es real, no es físicamente real. Entonces, por eso se usa mucho en medicina, más creo yo que en educación, porque en medicina existe este componente que es como una sustancia que se provee, que puede generar esta expectativa, ¿sí? Me dan una sustancia que creo que me va a hacer bien o que me va a hacer sentir ciertos síntomas. Entonces, el investigador que sabe qué grupo es qué grupo puede analizar este reporte de sensaciones o de efectos, ¿sí? In that sense. But I think it's more used in medicine just because of this secrecy of the of the treatment. Yes. Whereas in education, there is no secret in the treatment, in the intervention. Yes. Niños que son expuestos a una cierta técnica o a otra técnica o a nada, van a reportar seguramente efectos relacionados con esa intervención, pero no es una intervención secreta. El niño no cree que está haciendo algo y está haciendo otra cosa, no. En realidad creo que en educación es más difícil, porque el niño puede creer que está en una intervención de digamos, un método de proyecto y realmente reaccionar de una manera y en realidad no, pero es muy difícil eso, es muy difícil en educación, en el caso del placebo, ¿bien? Del placebo. Okay, and then you have a lot of formula. Check how you're going to report the formula, Camila, because it's difficult. And in education, this is really, I don't really think it's so applicable. But the other one, the matching, yes, and you can group students according to interventions, according to characteristics, according to activities you want them to do, or other variables. Okay, so great, girls. So you have been introduced to this world of quantitative research and experimental designs, which, as I said, can be useful in education, but of course, they need a certain logistics. That, coming back to the beginning, when we were talking with Javiera, when she was saying the accessibility to groups in qualitative research can be probably less complex than organizing an experimental design. But nevertheless, they are done in education. They are carried out, also applied in education. So time for reflection. Do you think you have learned something? Yes, you have learned something new today. Would you like to mention something specific we learned about?
The graphic organizer is for the next week.
It will be, yes, you will have to do it now after finishing now to upload it to the forum. Yes?
Okay.
And at the beginning of next week, we can, in the revision section, we can show your graphic organizers.
Okay, Miss. The graphic organizer can be for Prezi? No, Canva?
Yes, you can do any graphic organizer. So the agreements will be that. Next class is next Wednesday, the 8th of September. So finish preparing your summaries. Your summaries about experimental designs. Yes. Prepare your graphic organizers. It can be any visual display. Yes, prepare graphic organizers and share them in the forum too. And share them to the forum to create it on Educando's week 3. Yes, and finish the previous, so the task 2, which is this chart, the comparative chart between qualitative and quantitative research, should be posted to week 2. Yeah, so that is task 2, and so far we have everything. Yes, and you need to share your abstract. Yes.
So today, what we should upload to Educando?
Upload the graphic organizers.
Today?
Today or in this until next week, yes?
Okay, okay, yeah, okay.
But the graphic organizers will be shared in the introductory section of next class, yes?
Okay, Miss. Don't worry, everything is okay.
Okay,
So
okay.
in the task 2, we upload the graphic organizer.
Yes, no, that's forum 2. Yes.
Okay, forum 2.
Task 2 is the comparative comparison between qualitative and quantitative.
In the chart, the text?
No, the task is in on Educandos. I showed you week 2.
We have a word.
Yes, a word, yes, you have a chart in a Word document, yes.
This is the task 2.
2, yes, from last week.
Okay.
Oh, I have a comparison, yes. Finish and upload to task 2 in week 2. On Educandos on week 2. Oh, it's also week 2. So I will reflect all of these agreements on Educandos, repeat them on Educandos. So be ready to share your graphic organizers in the introductory section of next class. Okay, so if we don't have anything else to remember, any questions? Any more questions? Designs. No. Sorry, I made a mistake. Designs, yes. So I will repeat these agreements on Educandos so you are all clear on where we are. Okay, thank you for coming. Remember, the more we work in class, the less you have extra work. So let us take advantage of time. And next week, we will be working with qualitative research designs. Okay, are we clear? No, you're welcome, girls. Yes, questions?
¿Puedo hablar con usted ahora?
Yes. One minute. Yes. Araceli, is that you?
Sí.
Okay. Okay. Yes, wait a minute. Okay, we have, oh my gosh, what is that? Bye, yes.
Bye.
I miss.
Yes. So I have to tell the girls in second year to meet at the other link. Catalina?
Oh, ¿tiene clase, profesora?
Yes, I have.
Ya, pero si no le pregunto por WhatsApp.
No, yes, what do you need? Catalina, we meet at the other link. Es el otro link, Catalina.
Okay.
Yes.
Nos vemos.
Okay, see you. Sí, Araceli.
Profesora, es que sabe que no sé a quién dirigirme porque tengo un problema. Y en Educando me aparece que usted es la encargada de la mención inglés.
Sí.
Entonces no sé si tengo que hablar con usted. Es que, ¿no ve que ahora tenemos el taller de nivelación de inglés?
Sí.
Entonces, a mí la profesora, no me acuerdo cómo se llama, pero de apellido
Paula.
Orellana.
Paula.
Sí.
Sí, me
Y
toca.
me ingresó un grupo de nivelación de C1 y no a
Sí.
nivelación de B2, porque yo obtuve B1.
Sí, Araceli,
Entonces,
hice esa decisión porque hay chicas que sí necesitan la nivelación que ya tú la tienes. Entonces ya estás preparándote para el C1 para el año que viene, porque necesito que ese grupo del B2, hay chicas que están en otro nivel.